My name is Margaret Ellis. I am 70 years old, and 3 years ago my own family gently explained to me that I no longer understood modern life. They didn't mean it cruelly. At least I don't think they did. But sometimes the things people say kindly can linger longer than insults. It happened during a Sunday dinner at my son David's house. The whole family was there. David, his wife Claire, my two grandchildren Ethan and Lily, and me sitting quietly at the end of the table. Dinner conversations have changed a lot since I was younger. People still talk, of course, but half of the discussion now happens through phones. At one point David began explaining his new job. He works in consulting now, something involving digital strategies and online marketing. I don't pretend to understand every detail, but I listened with interest. Claire nodded enthusiastically while he spoke. It's all online now, she said. Companies don't even need offices anymore. Everything happens digitally. David smiled proudly. If you're not online today, you basically don't exist. I took a sip of tea. That's fascinating, I said. David gave me a polite smile. The kind of smile children sometimes give their parents when they think they're being sweet but out of touch. You wouldn't really enjoy it, Mom, he said. It's very technical. I used computers for many years at the school. I reminded him. Yes, but things move fast now. Algorithms, digital platforms, marketing funnels. It's complicated. Claire added gently. Mom, modern business is very different. You probably wouldn't find it interesting. I set down my fork. So people sell things online? Well, yes, David said. But it's not that simple. There was that word again. Simple. As if the world had become so complex that anyone over 60 was automatically disqualified from understanding it. You're 70, Mom, David added. You should just enjoy retirement. Retirement. It's a word people say when they think someone's useful years have quietly ended. I didn't argue. I finished my dinner, smiled at my grandchildren, and helped Claire clear the table. But something about that conversation stayed with me. Not because it hurt my feelings, because it challenged my curiosity. For 35 years I worked as an administrator at a public school. My job was to solve problems, organize people, manage budgets, and build systems that worked. Complex systems never frightened me. In fact, I rather enjoy them. After retirement, the first year felt pleasant. I gardened. I read novels I had postponed for decades. I took afternoon walks and baked bread when the weather turned cold. But gradually the days became quieter. Too quiet. When you spend your life solving problems, the absence of problems can feel strangely uncomfortable. The world didn't stop after I retired. It simply moved on without asking me if I wanted to keep participating. My children visited occasionally. Holidays came and went. But conversations had changed. Technology became the dividing line between generations. Whenever phones or websites were mentioned, someone would explain things to me slowly, carefully, as if translating a language. Mom, that's an app. Mom, that's how social media works. Mom, you probably wouldn't enjoy that. They meant well, but every explanation made me feel slightly smaller. One afternoon my grandson Ethan asked me a question while we were sitting on the couch. Grandma, do people your age even use the internet? I asked him why he thought they didn't. He shrugged. Dad says older people don't really understand it. Children repeat what they hear. That comment stayed with me longer than I expected. A week later I was sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, when I noticed the laptop the teachers had given me as a retirement gift. For 2 years I had mostly used it to read news and send emails. But that morning I remembered David's voice. You wouldn't understand modern life. I opened the laptop. If I truly didn't understand modern life, it seemed reasonable that I should at least attempt to learn it. The internet is an extraordinary place once you begin exploring it seriously. Information everywhere. Courses, videos, articles, communities. At first it looked chaotic. But I spent decades working in education, and I know something important about chaos. Most complicated systems only appear chaotic until you learn their structure. So I approached the internet the same way I once approached school administration. Patiently. Step by step. I watched videos explaining online businesses. I read articles about digital marketing. I learned new vocabulary, e-commerce platforms, algorithms, audience growth. The younger generation sometimes treats these things like magic. But magic usually turns out to be mathematics and psychology combined. Within a few weeks I noticed something surprising. Many online businesses were built very poorly. People rushed to create things quickly. They chased trends. They expected success immediately and abandoned projects when results didn't appear. Patience, something older people possess in abundance, was strangely rare online. That realization fascinated me. One evening I noticed something else. Thousands of people were searching for advice about organizing their lives. Schedules, finances, time management, household structure, practical systems for managing daily responsibilities. I smiled when I saw that. For 35 years I had built systems exactly like that for schools. Calendars, documentation processes, long-term planning structures. Organization had always been my specialty. Online, however, most of the advice came from enthusiastic young influencers promising life hacks and instant transformation. Life rarely transforms instantly, but it improves steadily with structure. That night an idea formed quietly in my mind. What if I built something online? Nothing dramatic. Just a place where people could learn practical systems for organizing their lives. David had said I wouldn't understand digital business. Perhaps he was right. But understanding begins with curiosity. My first attempt was clumsy. Very clumsy. Creating a website felt like assembling furniture without instructions. It took 3 days just to understand how to publish a simple page. But eventually I managed. I wrote an article about weekly planning systems, then another about household budgeting, then one about organizing long-term goals. The website looked plain. No fancy graphics. No dramatic headlines. Just clear explanations. At first nobody visited. That didn't surprise me. There are millions of websites on the internet. But I remembered something important from my years in education. Consistency is more powerful than enthusiasm. So I kept writing. 1 article each week. Then 2. After a while something interesting happened. A few readers appeared. Then a few more. They left comments. They asked questions. One woman wrote that she had tried every productivity system she could find, but none of them lasted longer than a few weeks. Your method actually works, she said. I appreciated that comment more than she probably realized. Systems should work quietly and consistently, not dramatically. 3 months later my son called. Mom, Ethan said you started a website. Yes. What kind? An organizational resource. There was a short pause. Then he chuckled softly. That's nice. Claire joined the conversation. Is it like a blog? Yes. Well, that's a fun hobby. I didn't correct them. At that moment it was a hobby. But hobbies sometimes grow into something else. 6 months later something unexpected happened. A small productivity software company contacted me. They asked if I would review their planning application on my website. At first I assumed they had made a mistake. But they hadn't. Their marketing manager had read several of my articles and noticed that readers trusted my recommendations. Trusted. That word felt surprisingly meaningful. He offered to pay for the review. Not a large amount. But it was the first money the website had ever earned. I accepted. Not because of the money. Because of what it represented. Proof that the work mattered. After that review other companies began reaching out. Small collaborations. Affiliate partnerships. Template sales. Gradually the website evolved into something more structured. Within a year it was generating a steady income. Nothing extraordinary yet. But enough to prove the idea worked. One afternoon David visited. He sat at my kitchen table while I showed him the website statistics. He leaned closer to the screen. How many visitors is that? About 40,000 per month. He blinked slowly. Wait, what? I poured tea calmly. You said I didn't understand modern life. He looked embarrassed. I didn't mean you couldn't learn. I know. He studied the numbers again. How did you build this? I smiled slightly. The same way I ran a school. Structure, patience, consistency. 3 things the internet seemed to forget. What David didn't realize yet was that the website was only the beginning. Because once a system works, it can grow. And the small project my family considered a hobby was about to become something much larger than anyone expected, including me.